freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. The only way they can inherit the freedom we have known is if we fight for it, protect it, defend it, and then hand it to them with the well-taught lessons of how they in their lifetime must do the same. And if you and I don't do this, then you and I may well spend our sunset years telling our children and our children's children what it once was like in America when men were free.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode number 489 of Gun Freedom Radio, where we encourage, we educate, we engage, and we inform. We are brought to you by Pot of Gold Auctions, where you set the price on guns, ammo, coins, jewelry, antiques, collectibles, and more. I am your host, Cheryl Todd. You'll notice that the other guy, Dan, is missing today, but I'm going to do my best to carry the weight of the show. And I am so excited about our guest today. We are going to be chatting with Sheriff Chad Bianco. Sheriff Bianco is a career lawman who rose from small town roots to lead the Riverside County Sheriff's Department, earning statewide respect for principled leadership, public safety advocacy, and service above self. And now Chad is running for candidate of the state of California, the governor of the state of California. Welcome to the show, Sheriff Bianco.
Well, thank you very much. I'm happy to be here.
So our family spends a ton of time in Disneyland. And we were there about a month or so ago, and we were coming off of the monorail, I think it was, and there was a man in front of me with a nice little family, and he had your governor candidacy logo on the back of his shirt. And I think I startled him at first because I kind of scurried up to him and I said, "I'm noticing your shirt." And then I could kind of see the panic in his eyes because he's thinking, oh no, it's going to be one of those people that, doesn't support. And I said, "I've noticed your shirt and I'm going to be interviewing the sheriff very soon on my podcast. What do you like about him?" And he is part of law enforcement. And he said mostly that he had just gotten tired of basically the catch and release of hardened criminals and felons, and that he respected your tough on crime stance. What do you say about that?
Well, that's definitely true. In California, they've basically made crime profitable here. Crime is no longer a crime in California. And it has truly, we have lawmakers and a failed governor who have enabled criminals to basically run amok in our state and victimize us with no consequence. So from my perspective as a leader of law enforcement and helping not only my agency but all of the agencies in California fight against the lunacy that is in Sacramento, it's I know that I have gained a big following amongst the law enforcement personnel. I'm recognized as a leader of law enforcement definitely in our state, even the rest of the country, for my stance on crime and for speaking out for all of the horrible things that are going on that are preventing us from taking care of our citizens in not only Riverside County, but in the state of California. So it's this is common sense. Public safety is 100% common sense. There absolutely must be a consequence for committing crime. And this arrest and release process that we have is it's absolutely broken. It's a failed experiment and we have to fix it.
It's so true. And, we're here in Arizona, and actually I'll explain our backgrounds. You are at this amazing shooting range in California. There are still shooting ranges in California. Help me understand this.
Oh yes, there are. We have a lot of outdoor ranges, and we have a bunch not a lot, but we have a bunch of indoor ranges. And this particular one, I'm in Orange County. I'm in Yorba Linda at Iron Mike's. We're having a little event here today, and this range is just absolutely amazing. They put a lot of effort into it to make you comfortable here. They sell some amazing guns here, some affordable guns, and then some that are making me want to go find 2 or 3 extra jobs so I can afford them. There are some beautiful guns in here, and you can come in here. You can shoot their guns. You can bring your own, and we have many fantastic places here in California. What people probably in the rest of the country don't realize, there's a lot of gun owners here. There's a lot of interest in the shooting sports, and it's one of those industries that is just completely being taxed by a government that does not want people to defend themselves, does not want people to exercise their Second Amendment right, and they're very outwardly outspoken about it. They don't even hide it anymore. They just completely disregard the Second Amendment, and it's from a law enforcement perspective, from a law enforcement leader's perspective, the gun laws in the state of California, and most of them in the country, are not meant for criminals. They're meant for law-abiding residents. They're meant for law-abiding residents to prevent them from exercising their rights, from buying the guns that they want, from possessing the guns that they want, from carrying the guns that they want. And it truly does nothing but make criminals out of law-abiding residents trying to protect themselves. That's what's really broken in California, and it's something that I have to address as governor.
Absolutely. And we are in your neighboring state of Arizona, and I'm usually in my studio, but I'm up at our cabin in northern Arizona. And, you know, it is interesting how even in the state of Arizona, where we enjoy incredible freedoms, there are still pockets of people that really think that the government somehow is going to parachute in and save them. Some government official or law enforcement official is going to parachute in and save them when they are at their most desperate need. And, you know, I believe that, you know, we are our own first responder because we are responding to what is happening to us. And we rely on our law enforcement agencies and individuals to come and aid us. And so up here in northern Arizona, we do have a lot of people who enjoy their hunting and their outdoorsing. And so this is a very friendly area of Arizona, but it is wild to me how often you'll find people that they just don't believe that we should have the freedoms that we do. And so for you, what was the red line that you came to in your life where you said, okay, I've already been elected official. I understand the waters I'm treading in. They are snake filled, right? There's crocodiles everywhere, but I'm going to wade a little deeper and I'm going to put my hat in to be governor. What happened that you said, I'm the guy for that, and now's the time for that?
Yeah, so what I have realized over the last 7 years of being the sheriff of Riverside County, I've been in law enforcement for 32 years now. I've been the sheriff of Riverside County for 7. Riverside County is the second largest sheriff's department in the state, and we're the 4th largest in the country. So we're a very large agency. And I've been battling California for public safety, the legislature, the governor's office, the DOJ, the attorney general, all of them, because of their political ideology. And this is not about right and wrong. This is not about safety. This is not, none of the argument that they have is anything like that. It is absolutely against the foundation of being an American. And their belief is this fallacy, this fantasy that we live in a democracy. We do not. And we live in a constitutional republic. And the idea of democracy is basically socialism. So socialism can be democracy because it's mob rule, and it means that 50% plus one can rule the lives of that other 49.9%, and that is not how we were designed. So for me, it was, particularly with the Second Amendment, someone's belief that guns are bad doesn't mean that guns are bad. It means you're afraid of guns, you don't like guns, or you don't want people to defend themselves from the socialist government that you're trying to implement. I mean, that's the reality of what gun laws are for. It's to disarm the general public. And that's why our founding fathers put the Second Amendment in there. That's why it's number 2. And then you even go back a little bit, and it's a God-given right. It is not a government-given right that we can protect ourselves, and we can protect ourselves however we are best able to. And that, whether an anti-gun person believes it or not, it's with guns. And so it was not only the gun portion of it, the Second Amendment portion of it, the constitutional portion of it, but it was truly just the complete failure of government in California. And I watched as a dozen people signed their name up to be the next governor. And I realized it was the same names, the same faces of the people that put us here in this position in California in the first place. It's career politicians with a ideological far left agenda that is anti-American, and it is take away your rights, and the government control everything, and the government says how you live, where you live, all of those things. And so it got to the point where the majority of my friends have sold their businesses and left. My family moved out of California, at least my parents. My wife's family, whole family, moved out of California. And it got to the point where I don't want to quit. I'm not a quitter. I've never been a quitter in my entire life. And it would be easy to go along and go find one of those other places. But I love my state. I love my home. And I'm not going to be forced out of my home because of someone else's political ideology that truly is wrong. It's anti-American. And so I chose, I've got to stand up and fight. I've got to do something about it. But in the end, it was this: Californians, the majority of Californians, and I'm talking even Republicans, Democrats, Independents, or people that don't even want to be involved in politics, they are absolutely begging to have someone in charge of this state that they can look to, that they can respect, that they know is going to be honest with them, that they know is going to be transparent, that they know they can trust, that they know is going to do everything imaginable to make Californians' lives better. Not a political party, not a special interest or an activist group or these loud, obnoxious, small groups. We're tired of those. California is tired of those, and we want Californians being taken care of. And that's what I found over the last 7 years that people were looking to me for, is make a difference here. You can make a difference. You need to stand up and make a difference in our entire state, not just in law enforcement. So in the end, it was actually our wonderful president during his inauguration speech, and me just listening to the words that he was saying about fighting in America and how important America is. That was the turning point. That was as I'm listening to that speech, my heart was ripped from my chest and said, this is something I absolutely have to do. I have to stand up for California. I can't take the easy way out and move like everyone else. I am going to fight for this state, and I'm going to give it all I got.
I really respect that, because I think that is the top question, or the top response that people have to people who live in Washington State, right? DC, California, New Jersey. Like, well, why do you stay? It's like, well, if all the good people leave, you know what I mean? Then we've ceded that ground. Like we've just given up, and we come from, a pretty determined stock. It runs through our DNA. Our founders, they didn't just go, oh, well, I guess we'll just have to do whatever the king says. They planted their feet firmly and said, this is the ground we're going to hold.
Yeah,
so
that's absolutely right. And I have to be honest with you, and I'm not going to, I don't want you to think I'm biased because I live in California. I'm a California transplant. I came from Utah, and as far as I'm concerned, Utah is a absolutely beautiful state. I had a great childhood. That's where I was raised, and it was amazing. And then your state, I travel to your state quite often, and I absolutely love everything about Arizona. But California is everything that Arizona has and more. It's everything that Utah has and more. It's everything that Tennessee, Texas, Florida, South Dakota, North Dakota, everything that every state in the country has, California has, but we have more. And that's why I love California. California has everything. California has the weather. California has the environment. We have the beach, the oceans, the mountains, the deserts, the farming, the cities. Everything that you could possibly want is in California. It's unfortunately being ruined and destroyed by a political agenda And that's the only thing that has to change. We don't want to change the weather. We don't want to change our environment, our geography, our people. Our people are amazing here. It is a completely failed government system that absolutely just has to be changed. And I'm going to make it happen.
Well, I love that. And I have to tell you, I had heard your name. I had, kind of positive ideas about, who you were and what you stood for. But I'm friends with Sheriff Mark Lamb here in Arizona, and I did vet you through him. So,
Well,
and I know that that went well.
Well, yes, I do, because I know Mark and Janelle well. We've have a great relationship. We met because we're both sheriffs, and we're major sheriffs across the country. And then getting involved with politics, obviously Mark is involved with politics, and then me being so vocal, it was just a natural. We were going to collide. And then when we did, it was like, hey, we have so much in common. My wife and I, Denise and I, just love Mark and Janelle, and it's a very good relationship.
Well, they love you back. And I was like, okay, done. That's all I need to know. If you're good with Sheriff Mark Lamb, that is the best endorsement I can think of. So, you're talking about how the regulations and the laws and the rules that just keep piling on top of each other, not just in California, but since you're there, let's talk about those. I don't understand, because I live in Arizona, but there are certain types of guns, certain brands of guns, maybe, that are being targeted with a registry requirement. Can you kind of briefly break that down for those of us who still do live in the land of freedom, so that we know what to look for, so that we don't allow this to happen?
I'm glad that you put it that way, because it's coming to your state. It's in California. It always happens in California first, and then it gets expanded to other states. And they use California as the example and say, oh, look how great it is here. It is an absolute lie. It is nothing but government confiscation of your guns. It is government prevention of you owning guns. And what we have, it's called a gun roster. And basically, manufacturers of guns have to pay a lot of money to the state to have their guns tested in some arbitrary made up test by the state for you to go on the roster to be able to buy a new gun. For a Californian to buy a new gun in California, it has to be on the roster. The only way to get on the roster is the manufacturer pays bribe money and extortion money to be on that roster, and then the state tells you that it's okay. But the bottom line is that entire roster was meant to eliminate the sale of new handguns in California. And one of the things that they have on there is microstamping. You cannot get a new gun on that list unless it's capable or it does the microstamping. That's impossible. From a law enforcement perspective, it's actually stupid. It's not going to work. It's an emotional argument just meant for someone to say, oh yeah, that'd be a great idea. And then you don't pay attention to the law that's actually being passed. That roster is meant to eliminate new gun ownership in California. It does absolutely nothing to fight crime. It does nothing to keep you safe. There are some. I'll give you a perfect example, and I don't want to cause arguments among the gun community, but my personal favorite gun is a Staccato. I own multiple of them, and
so nice.
They are, and I know there are probably others, but maybe I just haven't shot them, and I have chosen Staccato as to be my personal preference. You cannot buy a Staccato in California because it's not on the roster. They just put a different version of one on the roster, but it's not the same one that you can buy in Arizona. It's a different version of the Staccato. And basically what that is saying is the Staccato is not safe enough to be on the California roster, which is absolutely inaccurate. It is an absolute lie. And it's proof positive that it is only meant to eliminate the sale of new guns. That roster absolutely has to go in California. It is based on a lie. It's an emotional argument that was used to convince somebody to support it, and now it was 20 years ago in the making, but nothing in California is designed to happen right then. It's a slow progression of removing your rights. And before long, like right now, this happened 20 years ago, but now someone goes in to buy a good gun and they can't get it because of the gun roster. And they're like, when did this happen? I mean, oh my gosh. And it's like, well, you weren't paying attention 20 years ago, because that's when it really happened. And by the time in 2027, it might be impossible to buy a new gun, just because that was by the design. That's what the anti-gun people have come up with. So that gun roster, I will make sure it goes away. It is, as a leader in public safety, as a leader in crime, that is hurting more than it is helping. And we will make sure that that gets fixed.
Absolutely. And truly, I mean, it's been shown time and again that guns are more often used to save and protect life than to, menacingly take life. And so to demonize an entire class of tools that we citizens use to protect our own lives and the lives of our families, under the guise of you're saving lives by making them harder to get, I mean, it's just a lie on its face.
Yeah.
So
it truly is. Everything about California government right now is a lie on its face. It's a manipulation of fact. It's a manipulation of truth. It's a complete, not only distortion, but an absolute opposite of truth. And I'll give you a good example is the state just passed a law disallowing certain types of guns in the state, and they called it the Glock ban. And so this Glock ban bill was passed, the governor signed it. And so a lot of people in California are like, oh, it just stopped Glocks. It's not a Glock ban. It is a striker fire ban. So any gun that is on the striker fire platform is now illegal in California. And it was solely based on the possibility, not that it's that you can buy them like this. It's you're a criminal and you're going to turn a handgun into a fully automatic handgun, which is obviously illegal, and that shouldn't happen. But because of the possibility of someone doing that, they outlawed it and called it Glock bans. They didn't call it handgun bans. They didn't call it the most widely used handgun in the country ban. They just called it a Glock ban because it was like, oh, the regular person's like, well, I don't like Glock anyway, or I'll just buy a Smith & Wesson, or I'll go buy a SIG, or I'll go buy anything. Pick your manufacturer. And the reality is no, you're not going to buy any of those, because it was the word, they just named it the Glock ban. Yeah. And then in the wording, it was striker fire. So if it is ever capable or possible for modifying that gun, it is now illegal. And it's a disaster. That bill will absolutely need to be repealed. You only have to look at where we're going with technology and the way guns have moved into the striker fire area. The majority of the population in the country, I mean, whether you may like your single action, and you may like your Colts, and whatever it is, your 1911, but the majority of people are moving to striker fire, including the military, because it is reliable. It is easy to shoot. It's more, when you practice more, you get more comfortable with it. And it's just easier. And they've made that here illegal here in California. It defies logic. It defies common sense. And it just is more of a move of California government to disarm us. And I just want to add something you said earlier, and I should have said it back then, and I'm sorry, but you talked about first responders. I am a first responder, but victims are the present. They are the ones present when crime is happening. They are the one presently being victimized. I'm drive time away. I could be 30 seconds away, or I could be 15 minutes away. And by the time I get there as a first responder, your present is no longer the present. It's over. And you may have been injured. You may have been victimized. They may be gone. You may have been murdered, all because you were not able to protect yourself the way you wanted to protect yourself. And the reality of our government is this: my ability to protect myself is not determined by someone else's fear of firearms or someone else's belief that no one should own guns. we live in America, so we have the freedom to exercise whatever we truly want, as long as it doesn't hurt anybody else. And this is one of those. That's why it's in our Constitution. That's why it was a God-given right to protect yourself. And then they used the Second Amendment along that God-given right. So we'll make sure that California changes, because my biggest fear is all of these states where people are moving to for those freedoms, they're eventually going to be taken over also. That momentum that's happening in California, they use lies as examples of successes, and then you're not going to look into it. You're just going to assume you're not being lied to, and then you go along with them. And that's what we're going to do away with.
So beautifully said. And I love that distinction that you make between, the first responders, which thank God for our amazing first responders, and the present, right? The person that's present when danger strikes. And so often, I know for myself, so often my tool of self-defense that I train with, right, happens to be concealable. So I have a concealed carry license, even though in the state of Arizona, we are not even required to have them. And yet millions of us still seek out the training all on our own, pay for it all on our own, and gain that license. In the state of California, you've had some difficulty with that. And particularly in Riverside County, you as sheriff have had the ability to positively impact that, if I'm not mistaken. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, when I took over as sheriff, I took over, one of my platforms was allowing people to exercise their Second Amendment rights, and that we were being prevented from exercising our Second Amendment rights because the restrictions that our current sheriff at the time was putting on you exercising your rights here, it was basically, if you want your CCW permit, your concealed weapons permit, it was going to take you 2 years of an application process to get there. And so people would just say, well, I'm not even going to do it then, or they would forget along the process and they would miss their appointment date, and then they would have to start all over. So it was basically preventing you from doing it because of the obstruction of allowing you to even exercise that right to get that permit. And I eliminated that. So when I took over, there was roughly about 3,200 permits in Riverside County, and that had been issued in the 130 years of Riverside County. And since then, I've issued over 65,000. And it's we have taken the process from a 2-year application period to between 3 and 6 weeks. You'll get your permit between 3 and 6 weeks here, and we make it as legally easy as possible. Which the reality of California, the application is very easy. The restrictions are placed on the applicant usually by the issuing entity, which is either a chief of police or a sheriff. And I just refuse to put those restrictions on it. If you're legally able to have a CCW permit, then you're going to get one here in Riverside County. And I think that the entire state should be the same way.
Absolutely. And I like that you've given us an example of how and when you have cut through needless red tape. I mean, 2 years. I just can't even fathom that. And one of the organizations that I'm a member of, Gun Owners of America, and there's a California, Gun Owners of California, their slogan is, a right delayed is a right denied. Because think about that, for 24 months, a person is being denied and delayed. I just can't even fathom that. So I'm so glad for the citizens of Riverside County that you were able to impact that. So much of what we're talking about is rooted in cultural stigmas, and the side that opposes our rights and our freedoms. They have been so successful in impacting the culture, and I would say infecting the culture, to cause those of us who are gun owners or even Christians, right? We're seeing so much of that over the last few years, that they want to try to marginalize us and create this aura that there's something a little bit strange about us, a little bit weird, a little bit fringe. And I personally think I feel and see that shifting a little, but But what do you think?
I think that the anti-gun culture is a culture based on fear. It's based on inexperience. It's based on lack of knowledge. There is no one that has any engagement with a gun or any experience with a gun that's afraid of a gun. Someone is afraid of a gun, so that means guns are bad because I'm afraid of it, because they don't want to admit that they're ill-informed, misinformed, or that emotionally they're just afraid of something because it's loud. The reality is this: if guns were bad, I am surrounded right now by guns. I have had a gun on my hip every single day, 24/7, except when it's not 24/7. I sleep, and it's on my bed. It's right next to me. If guns were bad, we would all be injured in here, or I would be harmed. Guns are not bad. There is not one single firearm that is bad. People are bad. And that is what the anti-gun people don't want you to believe. A gun is simply an inanimate object that can be used as a tool. Why are you not afraid of knives? Why? Because you use knives every day. Why are you not afraid of hammers? Because you may have to put a picture in your wall or something like that, and you know that hammer's not going to hurt you. Well, I'm not afraid of guns because I know that gun is not going to hurt me. It's the person that's going to hurt me. And a person is going to hurt me with a knife, a hammer, a pipe, a board, or whatever they want to hurt me with, because they are evil and they are going to harm me. It's not the gun. The gun is doing nothing. And that is the entire problem. We're never honest with what we have going on. And instead of questioning it, we just go along with it because emotionally we've been touched. And if you know anything about psychology, if you are in your emotional side of your brain, you are not capable of thinking rationally. You do not use common sense. You do not use reason. You cannot think about anything that's going to happen because you are in that emotional fight or flight response, which is why, you run off a cliff. You're not paying attention. You're so afraid you're going to turn and run off a cliff because you didn't look first and say, oh, that's a cliff, I better not go, because emotion was controlling you. And that's where they have put us. So we have to start being honest. We have to start being real about what the issue is. The issue is not and has never been the gun. It's evil. And if we start treating evil like evil and we start dealing with evil, then we are no longer going to have these issues with a made-up word of gun violence. There is no such thing as gun violence. Guns are an inanimate object and capable of a verb. A gun is not a verb, and a gun is not an action. So stop calling it gun violence. It's people violence. It's criminal violence. It's evil violence. That's where these things are happening. And when we get to the point where we say, okay, a gun has never, ever, ever been the issue, it's bad people are the issue, then we're going to be able to fix things. And it's common sense. And it's talking things through rationally and making people have that rational argument with you instead of just fighting about it. And as the governor, that's what it's going to be. I will be able to convince everyone that just because you are afraid of guns, you should probably be glad that the person next to you is not afraid of guns, because they're going to protect you if evil comes to harm you. And that's where we really have to get to.
Well, it's so true. Our Second Amendment rights have come under this, it's almost like a marketing ploy that the other side has. And our First Amendment rights, as I mentioned, I'm Christian, and so I felt this kind of bigotry coming towards my exercise of my beliefs. And our founders put those things in place because they absolutely knew how this plays out, and they had the foresight to put those things in place. And I think it's incumbent on us to continuously refocus where truth really is, and to hold that line.
Yeah, because let me put it this way. Don't you think it very strange, ironic, and bizarre that the greatest country in the history of the world was formed because of a constitution, we made it this far because of a constitution, and the two most important things in that constitution were the First and the Second Amendments. There are there are 10 there are amendments to the Constitution, but the Bill of Rights are the first 10. Those are the most important. Number 1 and number 2 is freedom of speech and firearms. And right now, the Marxist, socialist, far left, the two things that they are trying to do away with is our First and Second Amendment rights. They claim it misinformation. They just don't want your opinion out there. They don't want us using reason and all of those things. And then take away your Second Amendment rights. So what made us great? The two things that have made us great, the freedom of speech, the freedom of religion, all of those things in the First Amendment, and then the ability to protect ourselves, not only from crime and from harm, but also from government, they're trying to remove.
Oh, exactly. It was so well said. And the fact that this Constitution was formed to empower the citizens, right? Not the government. And it's gotten turned on its head. And that triangle of power that our founders set up for us, that the power came from we, the people, and we would hire representatives to do what we would like them to do, somehow, as you say, like the Marxist ideology, the socialist ideology, it's turning that upside down to where we are now like Oliver with our little bowls going, oh, please, sir, could I possibly enact my rights? And that is not at all how we were designed to be.
No, not at all. And it's you explained it. It's exactly the opposite. We have become accustomed now, and we become immune, and we become numb to the real power that we have as residents, that we have as citizens, because we are supposed to be telling government what they can and can't do. And we have now become accustomed to looking to government and asking government, oh, what can we do? What can I do today? What freedoms can I have today? That's not America. That's not California. That's not Arizona. The way it's supposed to work is we tell government what you can do. Government is not supposed to be imposing themselves on us and putting all of these restrictions and rules on us. We have already put the rules on government, and we are allowing them to abuse that system.
Well, one of the most powerful muscles that we have as citizens is our vote.
Mm-hmm.
And when too many of us sit home and don't flex that muscle, it is absolutely mind-blowing to me. And one of the biggest groups that does fail to flex that muscle are hunters. We found out in the last election, there was a big study that had been done over multiple elections, and it came out that something like 10 million hunters. Now, these are people that go and register for every tag on the planet, right? Like literally on the planet. And they don't take the time to even register to vote.
Yeah.
And they are just sitting on the sideline and, forfeiting the game. I don't get that. But on this show, we try to constantly encourage people and show them positive examples. I think in a lot of ways, people have been disillusioned and they're like,
Mm-hmm.
well, my vote doesn't matter and there's nobody good to vote for. And I defy anybody to look into what you bring to the table and this conversation that we're having and say, oh, there's nobody good to vote for in California. I think that would be quite a challenge for them. And I just have two more questions for you. And the first one is, what is your red line that cannot be crossed when it comes to protecting the citizens of California's right to keep and bear arms?
I actually went to school, and I think I can read and understand what I'm writing. And the Second Amendment is very short and it is very clear. The red line is our Constitution. I have swore an oath to defend our Constitution. I have done it multiple times because of my employment, because of taking elected office twice. You have to swear that same oath. And I have administered that oath to thousands of law enforcement officers in this state. And I will die defending our Constitution, because I believe in it. And I believe that's the only reason why we're free. I believe that's the only reason why we have the ability to live the way we live in the United States of America. And state constitutions the same way. And I will not cross that Constitution. I do not believe that government has the ability to change the Constitution. I believe that that is why we are successful. So my red line is that document. That document that has given us all of this, that's my red line.
It's so interesting, and I appreciate your answer very much. The Second Amendment, as it's written, is 27 words. As you said, if you're unable to understand and process 27 simple words, that is what the other side, our opposition, has been doing for all these years, is trying to complicate something so simple. And it's amazing to me the time, the money, the effort that goes into our side of this conversation, trying to hold that red line that is 27 words. It's just mind-boggling.
And a lot of things that we're a little bit apathetic, and we don't want to research on our own, and we just believe what we blindly believe what we're told. Not only is it those words, but you can also go back and see all of the documentation that they wrote on how they came up with those words. And it is very, very clear what the Second Amendment was for. It's not about hunting. It's a God-given ability to protect yourself. But the Second Amendment was at a time when government authority was imposed on its citizenry, and the citizenry had absolutely zero ability to protect itself from an authoritative government. And that is why the government cannot take away your God-given ability to protect yourself. And that's what we're missing. That's what we're failing to admit, and we're allowing a false narrative to become the reality when it certainly is not. And we all have to stand up for it. And back to your voting thing, a vote not given because you don't want to take the time to look into who you're voting for, or you don't believe your vote counts. Well, the only vote that doesn't count is one that is not made. And we like saying in California, for every Republican, when you stay home and choose not to vote, you're actually voting for a Democrat.
It's true. And I just can't understand people not flexing that muscle, and women particularly, because it's only been a little over 100 years that we were allowed, my least favorite word in the English language, that we've been allowed to vote. And for us to abdicate that, I do not understand that at all. We have such a powerful voice at the ballot box, and I just really encourage people to tap back into that power and understand that your voice does matter, and unless you choose for it not to. And why would you do that? Why would you let somebody else decide?
Oh, absolutely. And especially here in California, we're talking about, it's a gun radio show, and we're talking about guns and our ability to own them, possess them, and protect ourselves. California, we've got 10 million gun owners in California, and 80% of them choose not to vote. 80% of the gun owners in California choose not to vote. That
hurts my heart.
It should.
It hurts my heart.
It is, because let me give you just a little bit of math. So of the 10 million, that means 8 million of them don't vote. We elected Gavin Newsom as the governor of California the last election with 7.5 million votes. So everyone could have stayed home except for gun owners, and we would have won that election. We would never lose an election in California if the people who went to church who were Christians, and if the people who owned guns voted for their beliefs, voted for what they believe that the United States and what California should be. We would never lose another election again.
True story. True story. Well, we need to wrap up. We're talking about how the power is with the people. And, we really shouldn't look to the government to solve our problems. And yet, we are talking to you about moving into another place in the government. but I think that when you have people that get it the way that you've expressed, and you understand that you will work for the constituents, for the people, that you are their representative, that gives me some hope for the state of California. And the last question is this, which I think you have been answering all along, but what makes you uniquely qualified to be not only one of the 50, there's only 50 governors in this nation, what, not only one of the 50, but specifically in the state of California?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question, because really that's what it's going to come down to, is what makes you the most qualified, or what makes you going to be the best. And I think that it's basically going to be a resume and history. I have 32 years of public service to other people. I strap on a gun and badge and a vest every single day to make everyone else's lives easier and better, sometimes at the real possibility of my own life ending. And it doesn't matter. I sacrifice myself for the betterment of everyone else. And then you go back into you electing me in one of the largest counties in the state of California, have elected me to provide a government service. And there is proof positive in what I've been doing for the last 8 years that I am going to do absolutely everything that I say I'm going to do for you. Not for me, not for a political agenda, not for a political party. It is representing the people who elected me in a government position exactly how government was intended. So it's basically going to be my resume. I will be the only person on this ballot that is one of your elected officials that has done everything that you wanted me to do, everything I promised you I'm going to do, who's going to shrink the size of government, not expand it, who's going to give you your tax money back, who's going to remove the regulations from an overburdensome government. Everything that I am saying, I've already proven to you that I will do and can do. I'm not just making empty promises, hoping that you like what you hear.
Absolutely. I appreciate that answer very much. Well, as we close out, please tell folks how they can continue to follow your work and support your campaign, because we all know the campaigns come down to manpower and money power. So,
Absolutely. Absolutely. And thank you. So anyone wishing to get more information from the campaign or help, it's biancoforgovernor.com. You can sign up for information. You can sign up for updates. You can definitely donate. We definitely need your support, your physical support and your monetary support. It's a huge state. It's going to be an expensive election. And for those of you listening across the country, what happens in California happens in the rest of the country. So this election for the governorship with the most power in the country, we have to elect a person that's actually going to be working for us to make our lives better. So biancoforgovernor.com, and please follow me on all of the social media platforms, Sheriff Chad Bianco, like the pages, share the information that I put out. We can make this happen.
awesome. Thank you so much for your service. Thank you for all that you are doing. And thank you for your time today.
You're welcome. Thank you. It was a pleasure being here.
Thank you so much. Sheriff Chad Bianco. Bye-bye now.
Bye.
Wow. I have hope for the state of California. If the electorate, if the citizens will show up and vote their values, vote their conscience, I think that there's a lot to be hopeful for. All right. Well, as we close out, I sure do miss having Dan here today, my co-host, to help me field the questions and especially with the closeout, because it's always such a big part of that. But if you want to go back and watch any portion of this show or any of shows, please go to YouTube, Gunstreamer, Spotify, any of the places that you find your content. And when you do, please like, subscribe, and hit the notification button. It shows those platforms that this is valuable information that you want to engage with. It gives us a little hedge against cancel culture. If you want to listen to the audio only version, then go to our website, GunFreedomRadio.com, click the on demand tab, and binge listen to your heart's content, darling. And until next time, pray for our nation, pray for our leaders. There are some Lulus out there that we just don't really enjoy very much, but maybe pray especially for them. And as you've seen here in my place up north in Arizona, the sun just keeps chasing me across the room, and I keep moving back and sliding back, and I have run out of room to avoid the sun. So it is clearly time to close out. So we will see you soon. Until next time, be good to each other,